So if you move this patch up, you can see that it's just now a separate piece that you can independently modify. Like if you subdivide it and then extrude it, scale it in, and maybe delete those faces and extrude it up by 0.1 and just scale it in again. Maybe delete that vertex since it didn't want to work. Extrude it, scale it in, extrude it back down, stuff like that. And then you can bring it back down, and you still have this separate piece with more detail, but it's still part of the actual mesh. So this is a very useful tool. It's a tool that I use very often, especially in my Skyward Sword project, because the NES has several different pieces that are slightly more complex. Like sometimes you have a plaque which is like 0.5 millimeters thick and much sharper than the rest, which is basically flat. So I actually had to split it off and have it as a separate piece and then work on it independently. But it works very, very well if you do it right. I've done it wrong sometimes and it just messes up the entire thing. So yeah, that's Split, another very useful tool. And next is Recalculate Normals. So let's do that. I'll set up a simple scene and we'll be back in a few minutes. Okay, so we're back. I've set up a simple scene here, and immediately by looking at it, you can see that something is wrong. Because you have this fairly uniform gray part here, but then this huge black line that goes all the way around. And now that is why we're going to be exploring the Recalculate Normals. Now, I've mentioned normals several times already, but just to remind you, normals are the direction in which a face is facing. So each of these faces in here should be facing towards the exterior. So you can probably guess what is wrong here. So since all these are on the exterior and you have this glitch here, and the tool we're using is Recalculate Normals, all these pieces here have their normals on the inside. Now that is not good, because it can totally mess up your renders when you do them. So the way to fix this, first off, you might notice that the actual cube itself looks kind of weird. But that's because I have the shading smooth enabled. If you just press flat, the normals problems don't appear. If you press smooth, suddenly you can see that there is a problem. So this is something to do once in a while when working on whatever project you're working on, to occasionally just set it to smooth and see if there are any normals problems, or don't even go through the trouble of setting it to smooth, just recalculate the normals anyway, just in case, just so that you don't get this really ugly stuff. So to recalculate the normals, you could just select the problematic parts, which in this case would be this, these faces, that one, and this entire bottom section here. Of course, there's also a much faster way to do this, because right now if you recalculate these normals on the outside using Control-N, it fixes everything. But it's easier to just select the whole thing and then press Control-N, because it just recalculates the entire thing. So yeah, that's a problem that can sometimes happen when you're working on something, and I spent the longest time trying to figure out what it was about. And it was only, I think, until I followed one of Jonathan Williamson's tutorials on Blender Cookie that I've understood what the problem was. But I can't remember when that was. So yeah, that's it. That's Recalculate Normals. Next is Hide Unhide. So yeah, let's go hide stuff. So Hide Unhide. Now this is another feature or another tool that I use very often, and that you can use in conjunction with other tools, such as the Select Connected, which is next, but I'll talk about that later. To hide something, say you select these 4 vertices, or actually these 7 vertices. And you want to hide this so that you can see what you're doing on the inside a bit better. Press H to hide, and it immediately hides both the vertices, and since the vertices are hidden, these faces also disappear. So you can make any modifications you want on the inside here. You can even hide these ones, and then you get something that looks a bit like a GameCube logo. And it's pretty useful, especially when trying to work on something and there's just too much stuff in the way. However, how do you get your stuff back? Well, that's very easy. Press Alternate H, and it brings back all hidden items. So this is just in edit mode. In object mode, you can press H to hide an object, and alternate H to re-show all hidden objects. But there's something a bit easier to do this. Say you have a bunch of them, a bunch of cubes, like this, and this one, and it's over here, and it's just in the way, and you absolutely have to work from this angle. Well, instead of just selecting this cube, or actually, if you have to hide all the cubes, you could just select the cube, all these cubes, and then hide them by hand. But you can also go into the outliner. Now, the outliner comes by default in 2.5 in the top right corner. Now you can see here, this is our ordinary cube, so it's cube. All these other ones have 002, 003, 004, and so on. And next to each object, there are these 3 little icons. This one is visible, selectable, and renderable. Now, this one is visible, selectable, and it'll render. But say you don't want to have these ones in the way. Well, all you have to do is click this eye icon, and they're gone. And then bring them back, you just click. And you can also make them unselectable, so you can't even select them. But that's really off topic. So yeah, that's hide unhide. It's a very, very cool feature. And most of these tools, when you combine them to do certain things, they can really turn into very powerful little things. It's surprising, really. It's very basic tools, but they can be very powerful when combined with others to perform certain actions. So next on our list is Select Connected. Now, most of you might already know this tool, but its shortcut is L on the keyboard. Now, this is a very useful little tool, and it can really help when hiding stuff, actually. But let's just see it in action. You have all these cubes here, which I just duplicated using duplicate. And say you just want to select one. Well, you could go in and just select each individual vertex, and like this, or use box select, which is B, or circle select, which is now C, and just go in and select all these vertices. But that's just a pain. Well, there's a way to do this, and it's Select Connected. Now, say you hover your mouse over this vertex here, and press L while it's hovering over it, and you'll select only the vertices that are connected to the vertex over which you're hovering. So, and you can also select multiple ones. So this one will stay connected, and you can just select all these little cubes, and then A to unselect everything. But you can also do the opposite. Say you have everything selected, and you do not want to select this one. Press Shift L over a vertex, and it unselects it. So it's a very, very useful tool, especially when working on rather dense projects, and you only want to select one part of it without having to deselect certain vertices off another piece that's maybe intersecting, like here. So it's just really, really useful to be able to just select one group of vertices that is all connected.